once again, you're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And this is day 3, July 30th, Bengals training camp. We got a report for you. First guy I'm going to talk about, Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams, he came out and had a little press conference with the media today, and he looked rocked up now. He's put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle, real good weight. And Frank Pollack told him during OTAs, organized team activities, here before training camp started in the off season, that why don't you go ahead and try to focus on putting on some good weight to make yourself a little bit stronger when you anchor against the bull rush. Jonah Williams is extremely athletic. He's got a size 17 shoe, but he can move those puppies now. He's got quick feet. He's got good feet. He puts himself in good position with his footwork at all times. Sometimes he gets in a little bit of trouble with, big, powerful bull rush ends, and this extra added weight, I think, is going to immeasurably help him combat that. Also, it might help him prevent some injury. He's had some injury problems his first couple of years in the National Football League, and sometimes you just get caught in the wrong position in a pile, and that's what happened to him when he suffered a leg injury. There's nothing you can do about that. But, this might help him prevent some upper body injuries. So I think Jonah Williams, that was a good idea by Frank Pollack after he watched Jonah play and then saw him in person during these camps. And Jonah responded well like he always does. This guy is got just an unbelievable football mind. He's very analytical. He's like a computer breaking down tape. I mean, he knows almost every single play probably that he's played in the National Football League and what he did right, what he did wrong, what techniques he employed, what techniques he should have employed. And he's real excited about having Frank Pollack as his offensive line coach. He said that he's given him more tools for his tool belt, and he's going to utilize and employ them. And Frank Pollack making an impression on Jonah Williams just like he is on all the offensive linemen. And those guys know they're under the microscope. They know the Bengals are stocked with very, very skilled people at the receiver position and running back and quarterback, and they're excited. They know if they do the job, they're going to be tough to handle this year offensively. Next person I'd like to talk about here at day 3 of training camp at Paul Brown Stadium, offensive line coach Frank Pollack. What an impression he's made on everybody. I mean, Joe Mixon obviously loves him. Joe Mixon had his best year as a pro with Frank Pollack as the offensive line coach. When Joe Mixon got the game ball for a big effort against the New York Jets at Paul Brown Stadium, he gave the game ball to Frank Pollack as they were leaving the football field. Frank Pollack was the offensive line coach for the New York Jets at the time. That's the kind of relationship that Joe Mixon and Frank Pollack have. Frank Pollack says that's in his trophy case. It's as important to him as any other award he's ever won. When you have the respect of players, it means everything. And Coach Pollack certainly has the respect of his players. There's no doubt about it. One thing that he has is instantaneous credibility. I remember when Forrest Gregg was our head coach here in Cincinnati in 1980, he came to town. He got up to the podium. He put his hands on that podium. He had those big hands, and he had Super Bowl rings hanging off his fingers, multiple Super Bowl rings. And I remember Vince Lombardi said that Forrest Gregg was the best football player he ever coached. And you're talking Jimmy Taylor, Paul Hornung, Art Starr. I mean, there's a laundry list of great players, all Hall of Famers. And Vince Lombardi said Forrest Gregg was the greatest player he ever coached. So I'm looking at Forrest Gregg standing at that podium with Super Bowl rings on each hand and knowing what Vince Lombardi said about him. And I'm saying, I'm going to listen to this guy, particularly as an offensive lineman, when I'm looking at a former offensive lineman who's in the Hall of Fame. He's now my head coach with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, instantaneous credibility. And I knew another thing. He won't ask me to do anything that he didn't do. When I'm feeling like, boy, I'm really getting pushed at training camp, the physical conditioning's tough, we're really hitting, boy, there's a lot of contact, I'm going to say, well, Forrest Gregg, he did this and more. He's not asking me to do anything Vince Lombardi certainly didn't ask him to do. Vince Lombardi was very, very demanding of his players. And I think players respected that. So, I mean, he had skins in the game, and everybody understood that. He sat in the same seat we were sitting in. He knew what we were thinking. He knew what we were feeling. That's going on with Frank Pollack with this group of offensive linemen, because Frank Pollack is a 9-year offensive lineman. Frank Pollack has a Super Bowl ring when he played for the San Francisco 49ers. Instantaneous credibility. So now his offensive line, They totally believe in him. They trust every technique that he's teaching. They feel like they can just pile on technique after technique to be able to draw from, and they just really feel comfortable with Frank Pollack as their offensive line coach. He's going to work them hard, and he's not embarrassed to say it. He's going to work them hard. This whole mentality is just like Forrest Gregg, Jim McNally, all these offensive line coaches and guys that did play like Forrest and Frank Pollack in the National Football League for a number of years. They know that if you work hard in practice and you face every possible adjustment that can be faced during the course of a game in practice, the game's easy. The game's like a vacation. You know, at that point in time, you're just relying on muscle memory and repetition after repetition, and that's what it's all about. And I'm really excited to see how all the offensive linemen respond to Frank Pollack, because he has instantaneous credibility, just like Forrest Gregg did. And just so you know, offensive line coach Frank Pollack is our special guest on our podcast videocast coming up here in just a couple of days, so stay tuned for that one. The last topic I'd like to talk about in day 3 of training camp here at Paul Brown Stadium. Everybody knows Joe Burrow is a hell of a quarterback, and he's getting a lot of buzz. The other Joe Mixon, hellacious running back, he's getting a lot of buzz. Everybody knows that the Bengals have 3 wide receivers that are going to be very, very tough to cover. Who are you going to double team? Somebody's going to be open. Somebody's going to beat a one-on-one. Everybody's talking about all of these players. The offensive line is under a microscope. They're getting talked about on a daily basis. Are they going to be better? Will they be able to protect Joe Burrow? Will they be able to open up holes for Joe Mixon? Will they give these skilled players, will they give them time and space to operate? So the offensive line's getting talked about. The forgotten group, what about the tight ends? The tight ends, it's the most unique position in football, because they're the third tackle in the running game, and they're an extra wide receiver in the passing game. They have to be the most versatile football players on the field, basically, and that's what they are. That's what they're all about. C.J. Uzomah is back from a torn Achilles that he suffered last year. He's 100%. 6'6", 260-pounder. He's the answer to a trivia question: who caught Joe Burrow's first touchdown pass of his NFL career? C.J. Uzomah will always be that answer. C.J. Uzomah can run routes. He's got good speed. He's got great athleticism. He was a former quarterback at Auburn when he was recruited out of high school. So unquestioned athletic ability, and he's a very adequate and capable blocker in the running game. And then you pair him with Drew Sample, former second-round pick out of Washington. He's 6'5", 260 pounds or thereabouts, and he is the run blocker. He is the guy that's going to set the edge positively for the offense in that running game. And he can, he's a versatile weapon too in the passing attack. He can get out and catch the football. So they've got two pretty good tight ends. The real battle is going to be who's the third tight end, or even fourth. They decide to go with 4. It's going to be decided by special teams as it always does. The back end of the roster, the back end of every position group for position depth is decided by who can give Darren Simmons the most special team snaps. Thaddeus Moss, son of Randy, 6'3", 250-pounder, LSU. He's got ties to Joe Burrow. He was on that national championship team in 2019. He and Joe Burrow made quite a connection. He's a great receiver. Will he be able to block well enough? That's going to be the answer. We'll see here shortly once shoulder pads come on and preseason games start to unfold. Mitchell Wilcox, 6'4", 250-pounder. Mason Schreck, 6'5", 255-pounder. These guys are going to be the depth of the football team at the tight end position. Will they be able to run routes, catch the football well enough, and block? Because what it boils down to in football, you hear defenses all the time. You earn the right to rush the passer by stopping the run and creating favorable down and distances. You want to get the offense in third and long situations so it's easier to rush the passer. And you do that by stopping the run. The reverse, just the absolute reverse is true offensively. You earn the right to throw the football by running the football effectively and getting favorable down and distances. Because then the defense doesn't know what you're going to do. Defense wants to put offenses in 3rd and 7 or more. Offense wants to put defenses in 3rd and 3 or 4 or less. That's what it's all about. And the tight ends are going to have a major impact on what happens in terms of being able to run the football successfully and throw it as well. So underrated, not spoken about, The tight end position group is an interesting to watch. Is an interesting group to watch. It's a position group of much intrigue as training camp wears on here in 2021.
Hi, Dave Lapham here. Have you heard about In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics? Catch new episodes from the world of sports and broadcasting. Search for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.